The first question I want to answer is, how does nutrition directly impact your athletic performance before your workout? Okay, before your workout. And you've had this question before. I mean, I think everybody has this question when they first come into the gym. It's like what do I eat before a workout question, right? Did you have any preconceived notions of what you might eat before a workout, before you started Burn, versus where you're at now in your education? Have you come?
100%.
Okay, tell me a little bit about where you think most people might be today versus where you are today, or versus kind of where you were when you started versus where you are today.
Well, I know I overcomplicated everything. It's like, oh, I got to have a banana. I don't really like bananas, but I'm reading this article that tells me I need to have half a banana and some oatmeal. And really, it was trial and error for me. And then to also make sure that I was educating myself and not just listening to what was I was hearing. And now I know better that I really just focus all my time, effort, and energy on getting my protein in, which and that's where I've seen the most success. So now my whole focus in life, even when I was just recently at Disneyland, is like, how am I getting my protein goals at Disneyland?
Protein hunter
all the time.
T-shirts.
And that's what sets me up for success in the gym. I don't eat before a workout because I just, that's my body. I don't love to do that, but I make sure that, because I work out in the morning, that as long as I fuel my body properly the day before, I go into my workout the next morning not feeling sluggish.
I love that. Chelsea, we need to note that, by the way, Chelsea. We need to note we need some Protein Hunter podcast specific T-shirts. Would you guys buy the Protein Hunter T-shirts? I know we talk about finding ways to go get your protein out in the world, like a hunter, a true hunter of protein. I know that mindset definitely helps me. I know it helps you, Trisha. So we need to have a conversation around two things. First, nutrition in a 24-hour time span. We're going to frame this in the 4 T's of nutrition, of food, okay? And then we're going to answer the question, what is like the best generic, although there'll be some nuances based on who you are as an individual, what's the best kind of sports nutrition plan generically for a Burn Bootcamp member or somebody who has, 4 to 6 days a week of high intensity, they're training for peak performance. What's the best nutrition plan? And we're just going to break that down into like 5 simple things. And I'll tell you what, eating before a workout is not one of the 5 simple things. All right. And we're going to explain why that is. But before a workout commonly is perceived as like 30 minutes before, an hour before, 2 hours, 3 hours before. I'm going to frame it as in the day before, okay? The day before a workout, not necessarily always 30 minutes, an hour and a half before, and we'll explain why as we get deeper into this thing, okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So let's start with the 4 T's, okay? You have 24 hours in a day, everybody. Here's what I want you to focus on in 24 hours. You have the total amount of calories. That's T1. You have type, you have timing, and you have tactics. Those are 4 T's. So total calories, it's a math equation. Energy in, energy out, quality matters. Number 2, type. This is not just the calories, but the quality of calories that we have. Number 3 is timing. When you eat, everyone, is far more important than what you think. Okay? Not necessarily always before a workout, but definitely after a workout. Tactics, okay? The biohacks, right? The cherry on top. The things that people really start with are last on my list for a reason, because you need your total, you need your type, and you need your timing before you deploy individual experimental tactics. And this is the 4 basic T's of nutrition. Make sense? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we have to understand that this is a hierarchy before we go into it. All right. So with that being said, I'm not going to dive much deeper into that, but with that being said, we need to address a big myth. There's a huge myth. All right. Does anyone know what I'm about to say?
I think it's one of the things I just rattled off that confused me at the very beginning of my journey.
What was it?
Carbs before a workout.
Yes. Do you need to eat carbohydrates before a workout? Keyword being need. Answer being no, you don't need to. And most people, in fact, shouldn't, because the ultimate advanced state of your metabolism is called metabolic flexibility, which will require you then to source energy from carbohydrates, like eating carbohydrates, some simple carbohydrates, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour before your workout. It will require you to be able to do that, but also be able to use your fat as energy. Okay, glycolysis, lipolysis, breaking down carbohydrates for energy, breaking down fat for energy, a fundamental principle we talk about on the podcast, which is an ultimately an advanced way, a state of being, okay, an advanced homeostasis, if you will. You are going to be able to pull energy at any given time from both of those things. You don't have to eat carbohydrates before your workout in order to fuel your actual workout. All right? We're going to break down the myth right now. Okay? It's optional for you. If you feel better because you have an apple 30 minutes before you go into the gym, that's great. Fine with me. Do your thing. If you wake up at 5:30 a.m. and you don't feel good putting stuff in your body in the morning, that's great. Even better with me. Do your thing, right? Because what you're going to then be able to do is pull from the fat sources, which are just stored energy. You're going to be able to pull from those fat sources. And, by the way, and most importantly, glycogen stores. It takes time for your body to store carbohydrates as glycogen. And your glycogen stores are not tapped out and not depleted by normal, be like everyday activity, like things you would call activity under your basal metabolic rate, or the baseline of your metabolism, the amount of energy that you need in order just to function as a human. You don't tap into your muscular and glycogen stores. You barely make a dent in them. Okay, because those glycogen stores are meant for explosive energy. So as long as you eat well the day before, the night before, the workout, the lunch before, as long as you eat well post-workout the day before, you're going to have all the glycogen stores you need to go into that workout and maximize your athletic performance. Now, why would you be somebody then that eats an apple 30 minutes to an hour before their workout, get a real kind of simple sugar going so that you can increase and stabilize your blood sugar levels, because you're somebody who maybe isn't metabolically flexible yet, and you need that fuel in order to sustain you so you don't get lightheaded during a workout? That's one reason that you're going to, like, if you're just starting, I don't recommend training fasted. If you're in month 1, 6, 12, 20, I don't recommend training fasted. I recommend having, some type of pre-workout carbohydrate source, but not something where you think you need to eat a full, well-balanced meal 3 hours before because you need to restore your glycogen. That's happening the day before, okay? You're just putting something in your body 30 minutes before to sustain your blood sugar and give your body fuel to be able to go through this workout right away. That kind of that quick, rapid fuel that we pull from. Because what will happen most often in people that are new to fitness, especially a higher intensity off the baseline than what they're used to, is that blood sugar goes real fast. They get depleted. Their body isn't used to the workout yet, right? They're not in a place where I would consider them metabolically flexible yet. So there's this whole myth around pre-workout carbohydrates that you need to eat them in order to store glycogen in order to pull explosive energy from your workout. The answer is you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Training fasted will, for the vast majority of us, as a general rule of thumb, if you're already advanced, remember, this is the lens of this podcast. If you're already in an advanced state, you could train out fasted, no problem. And what's really important is your post-workout carbs. But I'll start there.
So I don't need to have Sour Patch Kids or nerd clusters before I go work out.
Well, there's a whole let's talk about that, because I think that's a trend, right?
It's a huge trend,
right? And it's like
over.
all about what, eating candy during a work. Like, explain to me what you see out there.
So I was training for a half marathon. And so I understand the concept of needing to give your body like some fuel to keep you going. And I believe that that's where this came from. And it might be from the CrossFit world. I don't know where it originated from, but it's what I'm seeing is people are bringing bags of candy in their gym bags, and they're just popping a handful before, during, and then after to restore their glycogen. And I'm assuming to keep them going, to give them energy.
If they're doing, yeah, so let's break that down. So the trend is, you're like eating candy during a workout, and people say that's giving me energy. Now, it depends on what kind of energy you're talking about. If you mean glycogen, it's replenishing your glycogen stores so that you can have more explosive training power and output. The answer is you're fundamentally misguided. Right, because your body doesn't have the ability to metabolize that simple sugar and store it as glycogen in the same time frame that you will be in a workout. So the entire methodology, if that's the case, would be mismatched just from a pure timing standpoint. Now, if you're eating sugar because you are going to, it's simple sugar, it breaks down real fast, and it's sustaining your blood sugar levels, that more it works. This might be controversial because it doesn't work exactly the same thing, but that's more like having caffeine, right? What that's really doing is giving you that kind of surface level energy for you to be able to like feel like working out, right? It's giving you like, so you don't necessarily feel depleted. But and still that takes 30 minutes or so, right? So if you are popping some Sour Patch Kids on minute 35 of our workout, it's not going to do much for you anyway. Again, would be misguided. Now, if you're somebody who is an endurance athlete and it takes your muscle glycogen and your liver glycogen stores about 60 to 90 minutes to deplete once you've started actually tapping in and training from an explosive perspective. Once you start getting to that 60 to 90 minute time frame, this is where you'll see marathon runners, distance runners start popping, honey. They'll pop the specific packets, like gel packets made for long distance running. I think this is really what's going on here. In the fitness industry is, people are popping, Skittles and things like that. Now, let me give you my take on this, okay? This trend, if you're just trying to get simple sugar in to feel good about your workout and have some surface level energy, I guess kind of do your thing, but I hate it. I'm going to tell you that I absolutely hate this concept. Why? Because of the neurological effects, right? And a lot of times the fitness industry doesn't understand how symbiotic the mental state and the physical state are together. It's not that you have to worry about the mind-body connection in making those connections. It's that it's an inherent part of our physiological progress is our psychological progress. So if I start eating Sour Patch Kids, now I'm going to have this positive association, this dopamine reward spike to eating candy, right? Even if like you're consciously like, oh, that's not the reason why I'm doing it. It's this X, Y, and Z reason. You're still visually seeing Sour Patch Kids. You're still popping them. It's still candy. You know it's candy. You're going to get this dopamine reward spike that candy is good. You're going to get this kind of sugar crash trap where, especially if you eat too much, that it's going to spike your insulin super fast, right? Which, if you eat too much of that and you start to go overboard, which you're going to need more and more and more and more and more, as if this is something that you habitually do, then you're going to start to blunt your leptin, which is the part of the hunger hormone cycle with ghrelin and CCK. You're going to blunt your leptin, and leptin is going to basically say, like, it's going to tell your brain, oh, you're not full. You're never full. So you need more food, you need more sugar, you need more carbohydrates. It's going to, now you start to get this conditioned hyper-responsivity to almost like those neural pathways that we talked about. You get this neural pathway carved in over and over. We talked about NASCAR on an episode where like you keep driving the same path, right? And the more you drive that path, the more you carve that path in. You get these conditioned hyper-responsive actions that basically say like do you remember Pavlov's dog? You ever remember that experiment? Chelsea, go ahead and Google or Chat GPT Pavlov's. We're gonna read this out. Pavlov won the Nobel Peace Prize for this behavior and finding out this behavior, and it activates these memory loops or these learned behaviors or these neural pathways that condition you to have a certain response, a conditioned response on something that an action that you would do that didn't have that intended outcome. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's called classical conditioning.
Okay, go ahead. Let me see. Chelsea, why don't you read this for us?
Yeah, Pavlov's dog theory or classical conditioning explains how a neutral stimulus can become associated with a natural response through repeated pairings. So in Pavlov's famous experiment, a dog initially salivated at the sight of food, which is the unconditioned stimulus, and its natural response, which was unconditioned response. By repeatedly pairing the food with a bell, which was the neutral stimulus, the dog eventually learned to salivate at the sound of the bell, not so much just the food.
Have the candy, take away the workout, now you just have the candy, and your body's going to respond. So it's something like that, right? So we want to realize that this is part of human psychology, and this is where I'm saying that this is why I hate the concept.
Yeah.
Because it leaves out this potentially damaging pathology, this potentially damaging neuropathway that you can start to condition into people that didn't even have, that ends up being a trigger for an unconditioned response to something that wasn't intended as the outcome in the first place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because when we're talking about phase 1 or breaking down the 24 hours and when you're going to time your food, you said you need to eat well. So can you explain to people then, define what that means to eat well? It's not fueling your body with candy. It's fueling your body with the proper, I'm assuming, macros.
Yeah, for sure.